Very good morning, dear students. Today we will discuss the next poem in our course, that is The Olive Tree. Olive Tree by Mark O'Connor. Now, Mark O'Connor is one of the best known Australian poet, and he is called the Olympic poet as he was awarded a fellowship by the Australian Council. Now, what is important for you to know is that he is basically an environmentalist. He writes about the environment, he talks about nature. Okay? And now, as the name itself suggests, the olive tree. Now, olives हम सबको पता है ना, olive क्या होता है? Olives जैतून, and we use extra virgin cold pressed olive oil in our cooking also, right? Now, olive, he is obviously talking about the olive tree, but what he is trying to do through that is what we will find out on reading the poem. But before that, we must know that olives as such, the olive is a traditional symbol of peace, prosperity and fertility. And this is a very interesting poem. How it is interesting? Mark O'Connor, through the example of olive tree. Till the time I had not taught this poem, मुझे भी नहीं पता था कि olive tree एक ऐसी tree है which never gets destroyed. In any case, हम poem पढ़ेंगे and you'll get to know whatever you may do, you kill it, you cut it, you burn it, you put fuel, you put what do we say that poison in its roots, it will again grow up with the passage of time. And it has also been told that this tree has lived thousands of years ago. It is living since thousands of years ago. And through this poem, see, there are two levels. One is the literal level. कि poem के through, olive tree के through, Mark O'Connor is telling us about longevity of olive tree. It lives longer and longer and longer. And second, there is a symbolic level to the poem, and through that symbolic level, what is poet trying to tell us? That nature is invincible. Invincible हम किसको बोलते हैं? Invincibility of nature हम किसको बोलते हैं? Something that is difficult to be destroyed. To be destroyed. That is what is invincible. And another thing that O'Connor tries to tell us through the olive tree is, nature is invincible, and the resilience. Resilience क्या होता है? The power to bear something, the power to bear everything, the power to bear any kind of destruction. You can bear any kind of hurdles. You can bear any kind of difficulties and any kind of destruction that is done to you. Nature की बात हो रही है, okay? And it is resilient. It can face destruction. Okay, so now let us find out how these two levels work in the poem. The olive tree. Nobody knows how long it takes to kill an olive. आज तक किसी को ये नहीं पता चला है कि olive को kill करने के लिए कितना time लगता है. So he says drought सूखा, axe कुल्हाड़ी, fire are admitted failures. ये तीनों चीजें जो हैं they are failures, admitted failures. That is, it has been tried to kill the olive tree through various ways, by cutting it, by burning it, but it never dies. All these things, brought axe and fire, they have turned out to be failures. Hack one down. Hack hota hai kaatna, to cut the tree. Hack one down, grub out a ton of main root for fuel. Grub out means to dug out. Grub out is dig out. आप olive tree को काट के tons of लकड़ी निकाल लीजिए जब burn करने के लिए, fuel बनाने के लिए, and what will happen? And next spring, every side root sends up a shoot. You know, so from the broken branches जो नीचे का उसका trunk रह जाता है, from there the new branches come up. Okay, मतलब पूरा काटने के बाद भी tree को, the tree will grow up in the next spring. A great frost, ठंड, कोहरा. A great frost can leave the trees leafless for years. सालों तक उसके पेड़ों पे कोई पत्ते नहीं रहेंगे. But they revive. After some time, they will revive in any case. Invading armies will fell them. Invading armies, जो armies attack करना चाह रही हैं किसी town पे, right? They are trying to invade, और वो invade करने के लिए what they will do? They will cut the olive trees, right? What will happen? They return through the burnt out ribs of siege machines. Siege machines, invade करने के लिए, attack करने के लिए siege machines लाए. What are siege machines? जब आप घेरा डालते हैं, you know, when you try to control the whole town or cover the whole town, that is, you are sieging the town. उसको चारों तरफ से चारों तरफ से घेर लेते हैं. Okay, that is siege machines. So he says that the olive tree, they return. They over here is olive tree. It again returns through the burnt out ribs of the siege machines. So वो अपने वहाँ जो machines, जो burnt out machines हैं and weapons जो उन्होंने use किए हैं, from them they shoot out. That is, they grow again. So what is the poet trying to tell you in the first paragraph? He is trying to tell you that the olive tree has an immense longevity. Immense longevity. You cut it with an axe, you burn it with fire, it will grow again. Then you may cut all the olive trees down and use them for fuel, but in the next spring it will grow again. Then because of the cold weather, because of the frost, the leaves of the tree may dry, but with the passage of time, after some years, the olive tree will again grow up. उसमें से sprigs आने फिर से शुरू हो जाएंगे. And lastly, he gives you the example that if the machines have been used and those machines have cut down the trees to attack the town, to attack the armies, have cut down the trees, but again these trees will shoot up from the siege machines. So in the first paragraph we learn that any kind of destruction which is used to destroy the olive tree is all a failure. Olive tree will somehow or the other, with the passage of years, grow up again. Only the patient goat, nibbling, निबलिंग जनरली गोट भी निबल करती है, छोटी छोटी बाइट्स लेती है, स्मॉल बाइट्स, और इवन द रैट, यू नो, जिसको कुतरना बोलते हैं हम, यू नो, छोटी छोटी बाइट्स करके निबल. Nibbling his way down the edges has malice to master the olive. Now, this is yet another fact कि जो goat है, that is the only living being on earth which can destroy the olive tree by slowly and slowly and slowly eating it in small pieces. Okay, and what is the poet trying to tell us? That goat उसको इस तरह से खाती है as if she has malice. Malice is a kind of hatred towards the olive, that slowly slowly it will give it a slow death. Okay, malice to master the olive, to be a master to the olive, basically to kill the olive tree. That is, and why it wants to kill the olive tree? Because it has some kind of hatred, malice. Malice is a sign of hatred. Sometimes they say, now he's telling you, let us say a story only, not exactly, but an episode which takes place, and still how the olive tree comes back. Sometimes they say a man finds a dead orchard. और वो orchard dead कैसे हुआ? It was fired. वहाँ की सारी जो trees थी orchard की, they were burnt and they were eaten by the goats. Okay? Fired and goat cropped. Goat cropped का मतलब है eaten by the goat. Okay? Centuries back, 100 years back. Okay? He settles and fancies. तो ये जो man है जिसका mention किया, that man who finds a dead orchard, जिसको dead orchard मिला, और वो dead orchard किसने dead किया था? Fire ने and the goats, right? 100 years back. Now this man will settle there and he will fence, boundary लगा देगा उस orchard को, ठीक है? Dead orchard को. He settles and fences. The stumps revive, and the stumps, जमीन से वो stumps निकलने, branches निकलनी, they start again. They revive. His grandchildren's family prosper by the arduous oil pressing trade, arduous, which is difficult. Now, not his children. Okay, he's saying his grandchildren will have a prosperous future. They will be rich enough because they will be making lots and lots of money through the oil pressing trade. Oil pressing, they will make olive oil and they will sell it. Then wars and disease wash over. फिर से वही orchard बिखर जाता है. Wars and diseases come over. That family perishes, right? And then the goats return. The olives go under, waiting another age. Now the same process will be followed. You know that cycle. Just a second. Destruction, this cycle will repeat itself, right? अब आपको इसको समझना पड़ेगा. What the poet Mark O'Connor is trying to tell you, that a man visits an orchard, that orchard is dead. उसको dead किसने किया? Fire ने and the goats. 100 years back, centuries back. Okay, then what happened? He settled on that orchard. He fenced it, boundary बनाई, उसका ध्यान रखा. The orchard grew up. The olive trees again grew up. He made money, and his grandchildren were really successful. They were having lots and lots of money through this oil trading business. And then he says, so destruction took place and then a revival हो गया because his grandchildren were enjoying the benefits, right? Then again he says wars and diseases takes place. Destruction again. Wars and, don't use this, and diseases. But what he says after that, after ages the olive tree revives. So this process, he says, destruction and revival goes on as far as the olive tree is concerned. ठीक है? I hope अब आपको समझ आया हो. The olives go under waiting another age. They wait and they come and they get destroyed and they again revive. So this cycle, मैंने arrows गलत लगाए हैं. Let us put them this way. Destruction, revival, destruction, and this goes on, eternal cycle. Okay. So the last two lines, their shade still lies where Socrates disputed का मतलब मैं आपको समझाती हूँ. पहले तो Socrates की बात करें. Socrates or Socrates, he's read as both ways. He was a Greek philosopher basically. Okay, Socrates. Greek philosopher. And what he did, disputed का मतलब क्या है? Disputed over here simply means that under the shade of olive tree, Socrates gave lectures, or he entered into argumentative discussions under the olive tree. And this olive tree, Mark O'Connor कह रहे हैं, जिस ट्री के अंदर सोक्रेटिस ने अपनी फिलोसफीज लोगों को बताई, लेक्चर्स दिए, आर्गुमेंटेटिव डिस्कशंस करी, इसीलिए वर्ड डिस्प्यूटेड यूज किया गया है. सो दैट ट्री इज स्टिल अलाइव. ठीक है, एक तो ये रेफरेंस आ गया. सेकेंड रेफरेंस इज Gethsemane's withered grooves are bearing yet. So grooves, we all know, group of trees होता है. Grooves में double O आता है. Groves, group of trees. Now, what is this Gethsemane? Gethsemane is a garden east of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, जहाँ पे Christ was there, where Christ spent a night of agonized prayer and where he was arrested after being betrayed by Judas, one of his followers who betrayed him. Now the olive trees at present growing in the garden of Gethsemane are thought to be the original trees from the time of Christ. So basically, what can we say? That they are almost 3,000 years old. Okay, which explains the immense longevity of the olive tree. Okay, तो सोक्रेटिस का जो मेंशन है और जो इस गार्डन का मेंशन है, where Christ had spent his last night, they are an example. There are two examples that are used by, let me say references. There are two references that are used by Mark O'Connor to tell the longevity of olive trees which lived thousands of years ago. So through this we learn about the immense longevity of the olive tree. Okay, and with this the poem comes to an end. Right, now at the symbolic level, I told you how resilience nature is. Resilient, it can bear each and any and every kind of destruction. Then how invincible nature is. Invincible, again, the quality of being too powerful. You are so powerful, you are invincible to be defeated. That is what is invincible. And another thing, a cycle जो मैंने आपको यहाँ पहले भी बताई, I would like to mention it again. You know how the cycle goes on. Death and destruction is turned into birth and revival. So this is yet another aspect of nature, yet another symbolic level of the poem. So at one level, the poet is trying to tell us about the longevity, okay? How long the olive tree lives. And at the second level, it is trying to tell us at the symbolic level, olive tree is used as a symbol by Mark O'Connor to tell us that nature never dies. It is resilient, it is invincible, and it has the power to change death into birth and destruction into revival. It can go easily into this cycle, so it never gets destroyed. It is invincible. This is what you have to keep in mind, you know. What are the two levels, or what is the basic idea behind the poem? Of course, one thing that Mark O'Connor is telling us about the longevity of the olive tree, and then it is telling us that nature is resilient, nature is invincible. ये दो बातें याद रखेंगे, then you can answer and elaborate on any question that comes to you. Okay, now let us see the analysis that is given in your books. This poem was written in Italy when Mark O'Connor was living there during the 4 years he spent in Europe. It is a nature poem, as suggested by title. At the literal level, the poem is largely about olive trees, about their longevity, about their ability to resurface even after destruction by frost, goats or armies, and about their being a source of sustenance and prosperity. Sustenance and prosperity कहाँ से आई? Dead orchard फिर से active हो गया. Prosperity which came to the grandchildren of that man who came to a dead orchard. But its theme is also the resilience of nature, which despite all kinds of calamities, natural calamities, destructions जो भी आई, you know, fire came, or it was eaten by the goats, or it was burnt, or efforts to demolish it, revives again in due course of time, with the passage of time. The poet stresses the invincibility of nature even after mighty efforts have been made to destroy the olive tree. It surfaces, it grows again after remaining dormant for centuries. बहुत time, for centuries, 100 years तक भी दबे रहने के बावजूद, you know, it grows up, right? It comes back again. In the second part of the poem emerges another theme, that of nature as a nurturer or sustainer of humankind. The dead orchard, which was fired by the goats, fired and goat crop centuries, revives and nurtures the grandchildren's family. This section evokes the theme of eternal cycle of nature, of death, destruction, which is followed by birth and revival. This theme is expressed again in the concluding lines of the poem. So remember one thing, 101% the question on theme is very obvious from this poem, right? Because it has various themes, and I hope आपको समझ आई हो वो अच्छे से, ठीक है? The olive tree is particularly rich in echoes of meaning and in its evocative use of words. The resilience of the olive tree is also suggestive of the resilience of the human will, which refuses to be crushed down, however heavy or destructive the odds may be against it. Resilience of humans, that a man is ready to work in a dead orchard. वो उनकी resilience है. He has that power that he will make things revive again. Hence, olive tree becomes a symbol of invincible human will. Power, will power जिसको हम बोलते हैं ना, human will, the will to do something. एक इच्छा शक्ति जो है, will power, you know, which may be dormant or passive at times, but finally it gets resurrected and starts afresh. As the olive branch is also a symbol of peace, of ending conflict or dispute, the poem also seems to suggest that despite violence and destruction, peace will always conquer in the end. Then, in its concrete imagery and simple vocabulary, the poem has some resemblance to romantic poetry, and in its vision of invincibility of human will remind of classical Greek tragedy. The poem abounds nature imagery. Imagery use करी है. Imagery use करना क्या होता है? Images have been used, and what images have been used? Olive, spring, side roots, shoots, frost, trees, leafless goat, orchard, stumps, grooves, etc. And it is remarkable in that the world of nature is intertwined, intermixed, interconnected, not mixed, interconnected with human activities of all kinds, such as the massive acts of violence of invading armies and wars, and references to domestic world of ordinary humans such as fuel, patient goat, fences, grandchildren, etc. So what is important for us to remember are these two things. We need to remember this particular aspect as far as the poem is concerned. Okay, you may go through it and also make an attempt to write the theme of the poem, and remember that it is since Mark O'Connor is an environmentalist, so this is a nature poem. आप लोगों के कोर्स में बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पोएम्स हैं. I really enjoy reading them, and the last one now we are left with, it is all the more intense, all the more shrieking, you know. It shakes you somehow, but let us not talk about it. Let us just focus on this poem. Okay, go through it. If you have any doubts, you may ask. Keep your focus over here. The meaning of the poem at the literal level and the meaning of the poem at the symbolic level. What it is trying to tell us. It is trying to tell us that how resilient the olive tree is. It is telling us about the longevity of the olive tree. It is telling us that nature has the power to face any kind of destruction, and the nature has a cycle which it follows, you know. It is kind of eternal, we can say, then where death and destruction is revived into birth and revival. Death and destruction is changed into birth and revival. And ये चीज़ मैंने नहीं कनेक्ट करी थी यहाँ जो हमने invincible की बात करी. So this invincible will is also connected to the invincible human will. उससे कंपेयर किया है नेचर की invincibility को to the invincible will, human will, you know, where even the man fights and faces each and everything. Of course, man is not that powerful but nature is much powerful. But then, if man has a very strong willpower, then obviously he is or she is invincible. Okay, that is all for the olive tree. I hope the point is clear to you. Still, any doubts, you're free to ask. That's all. Thank you so much.